Getting back to our origin of we the people. Tackling current issues both political and legal with common sense. As we the people, we must bring common sense back to make our lives better. Only on Now Media TV.
Welcome to We the People, where we break down the laws that shape our lives and empower you with the knowledge to protect what matters most. I'm your host, Alina Gonzalez Dockery, and today we are focusing on an issue that touches nearly every family: how to protect your assets and plan the future with confidence. Joining me is Attorney Dionne Duckett, an experienced estate planning and elder law attorney who has turned personal challenges into professional purpose. With a deep understanding of families caring for aging or disabled loved ones, she guides clients in creating solid legal plans that bring peace of mind and protect what they've worked so hard for to build in their lifetime. Dionne, I'm so glad you're here and welcome to We the People. So let's get started talking. I know that we were talking off air about, how life challenges can happen in families that face fear of losing everything that they saved over their lifetime just to afford the long-term care. As we were discussing off air, I believe you've had experiences with your own father with Alzheimer's, and I have my mother with dementia. Many families feel powerless when facing these rising long term care costs or concerns about whether they are even eligible for, say, Medicaid, and they want to protect their savings or their homes and often make financial decisions that are probably not the most sound, let's say. What are some of the most common ways people accidentally put their assets at risk when paying for long term care?
Hi, Lena. I think that's a great question. And I just before I answer your question, I wanted to thank you for inviting me on the show. I think it's a great opportunity and it's really important. The education is important. And what you said, asked about mistakes that people make with their finances. I think, first of all, people aren't educated about how much long-term care actually costs. And a lot of people, they say, I'm never going into a nursing home. I'll never put my parents in a nursing home. And then life happens, and you may be in the sandwich generation where you have kids that may be in college or kids you're raising, and then you have parents who now have these needs, and you have to work, and you honestly can't provide the level of care that your parents need. And so then you're faced with the cost. And so I'm in Georgia, and the average cost of nursing home care in Georgia is about $10,000 a month, and it can go even higher than that. And people really don't realize how much it costs. And then in home care can cost even more if you need 24-hour care. And so then how are people going to pay for it? Um, you can pay for it out of your life savings. You can pay for it with the help of family members. People think that Medicare will pay for it, and it won't. Medicare is the insurance that you get when you retire, and it's based on having paid into the system with your FICA. And so, but Medicaid does. Another way to pay is for long term care insurance. That's probably the best way, but most people don't have it. And my understanding is the best time to get it is between the ages of 55 and 65. And so when an emergency happens after that, it becomes more difficult to get the insurance, and you may not be, it may be more costly, and you may not be insurable. And so applying for Medicaid becomes a possibility. And there are financial limitations and requirements and asset requirements. Generally, uh, Medicaid is a program that is federally funded but implemented by the states. So each state has its own set of rules and laws regarding the implementation. And so I'm in the state of Georgia. And we generally use the guideline of $2,000 a month in income, but it's adjusted for inflation. So it's probably closer to 3,000 now, and $2,000 worth of assets. So those are the limits. And so one mistake people make is thinking that they could never qualify. but with proper planning, you can. The
Mhm.
second mistake people make is giving away things. And that can cause a disqualification because many people may have heard of a look back period. You know, when you apply for Medicaid, um, it's different in different states, but in Georgia and most of the states, there's a 60-month look back period, and they're able to request um, bank statements. They're tied into the IRS, and they're looking to see if you've given away property for the purpose of qualifying for Medicaid. And if you have given away property, you know, you could even, if you take a $300,000 house and sell it for $100,000, then that's a $200,000 gift because it was for less than fair market value. So what they will then do is they will add up all of the things that they consider gifts or transfers for less than fair market value, and they will determine a penalty. And the penalty, they call it a penalty divisor. That's usually about the same amount as, excuse me, the average cost of care. So in Georgia, it's about $10,000 a month. So if you've given away 200,000, they divide that by 10,000. That's going to be 20 months of disqualification that you have to pay at the full rate before you can qualify. So people make the mistake of giving away assets without having a plan or talking to a professional.
And I do see that, and I talk to friends of mine. Are we're all in the sandwich. So I love that. By the way, I'm going to use that from now on. But it's like even discussing this with friends and clients, I always advise them. I'm like, they're like, well, we'll just transfer the house into our names. Our parents will transfer to us. I'm like, no, because that's a 5 year look back in Florida.
Mhm.
And I'm in Florida, I'm in Southwest Florida, and we have like for Medicaid eligibility, the primary residence actually is excluded for as an asset for determination of that. So it's like I keep advising people, don't just give away the farm. Don't think that. I mean, now if you're going to do that, let's say in anticipation that, oh, 10 years down the road, I may need long-term care, but I just want my kids to I just want to give my assets away now. Okay, fine, do what you like. But there's better tools out there. You and I both know that. And that's
Right.
what really I think our listeners or our audience really would benefit from is what plans can they start looking into that would best protect their assets?
Okay. And then I'm glad you mentioned the fact that the primary residence is excluded because it is, but if you haven't planned appropriately for its protection, if Medicaid is paid for care, when the person dies, they want to get paid back. And that's where that
Mhm.
Medicaid lien comes into place. And they can put the lien on the house. And that's where people come to me saying, I don't want to lose the house to pay for nursing home care. And
Yes.
so one of the tools that we use, a lot of attorneys refer to it as a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. It is an irrevocable trust. There's lots of different types of trusts that have lots of different uses. So, but the Medicaid Asset Protection Trust is an irrevocable trust. So that typically means once you put the property in it, you can't take the property out of it. And then the person who's creating this trust and trying to protect it for beneficiaries, they also cannot be the beneficiary. So they can't take the property out. They can still live in it, but the beneficiary would have to be someone else. And like you said, if they ultimately want their children to have it, they can make the children the beneficiary.
Hmm.
And and with that 5 year look back period, they would have to put it in place at a time where they don't feel like they would need nursing home care in the next 5 years. And so then, if 5 years and a day goes past, then they apply, something happens, they apply for Medicaid. When you look back 5 years, that's not counted and it's fully protected. So, because it was transferred more than 5 years before applying for Medicaid.
So, and that's the biggest issue, I think, or fear, I would say that I come across here in Southwest Florida is the Medicaid lien. Because you don't want the government to be able to take whatever little assets because you want your family to benefit from the work that you've done. So When it would be the right time to begin asset protection planning? Would it be before retirement, or what age would you suggest to your clients that, hey, why don't we start looking into these tools to protect your assets?
I think probably around 50, before retirement. A lot of my clients are coming to me after retirement, but I think you want to plan before something happens and while you still have time to plan. So you don't want to wait until a crisis happens. There's two types of planning. There's crisis planning once you're already in a nursing home or going soon, and the proactive. So if we're talking about proactive, you want to do it while you're healthy, but you have to look at things like if you think you're going to move or sell your house or something like that, then you may not be ready to um, to put it in an irrevocable trust that you can't take the property back out. You should definitely look into things like the long-term care insurance, which, like my understanding is that between the ages of 55 and 65 are the sweet spot. You can get it younger and you can get it older, and they've got different types of products out there now. They have life insurance, and I'm not a financial person, but I affiliate with a lot of um financial advisors and insurance agents, but they some of the policies have riders on them that can be used for long-term care, and then if you never use it, it gets added back into your life insurance. And so that might be a worthwhile investment. But for the long-term care planning with the irrevocable trust, you want to do it when you don't expect to need nursing home care for at least 5 years, because the transfer to the trust is a gift for less than fair market value. So it has to meet that 5 year look back period as well. The other thing is if you get a diagnosis like dementia or Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, some of those um, diagnoses you can live a very long time with. And
Mhm.
so, as soon as you get a diagnosis like that, then you may want to look into planning. And you definitely want to work with a professional because you can mess things up trying to do things yourself.
Well, thank you, Dionne. And these are such excellent examples of what to do and what to expect. And coming up after the break, we'll unravel one of the most confusing parts of elder law. And it is that Medicaid eligibility and long-term planning. I mean, we discussed it is a huge iceberg and we're only touching the tip of it. But coming up next, we're just going to see how we can navigate before it's too late. Tune right back in.